43 years ago, I'd seen that ring flash while she stirred gravy, waved at grandkids, or slapped my arm when I told a bad joke. That night, it was gone, and I already knew she was lying. My name is Walter Hensley. Most people call me Walt. I'm 72 years old, and I've lived in Springfield, Missouri, my entire life. I worked 37 years at the power company before I retired. These days, I spend my time at the hardware store, the library, and my woodshop out back. I'm not a complicated man. Never wanted to be. I'd been married to Diane for 43 years, raised 2 sons, built a life that felt solid as oak, the kind of life where you know what Tuesday looks like before Tuesday arrives. But that Tuesday evening, something cracked. I came home around 6:30 with a new blade for the table saw and a bag of deck screws. The kitchen light was on. Diane was sitting at the table, head down, shoulders shaking. For a second, I thought someone had died. What happened? I set the bag down and moved toward her. She looked up. Her eyes were red but dry. That's the first thing I noticed. Red eyes, no tears. My ring, she said. Her voice came out thin and high. Walt, I lost my ring. I looked at her left hand. Bare. The gold band she'd worn since 1982 was gone. Where? I pulled out a chair and sat across from her. At yoga. She wiped her face with the back of her hand. The studio was so hot today. My hands were sweating. I didn't even feel it come off. Before you ask, yes, I want you to hit that like button right now and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from and what time it is where you are, because what I'm about to tell you is going to make you question everything you thought you knew about the people you trust most. I reached across the table and took her hand. Her skin was cool, smooth, not a trace of sweat. Did you look for it? Everywhere. She pulled her hand back and folded both arms across her chest. I stayed after class. I checked the mats, the floor, and the bathroom. It's gone, Walt. It's just gone. I nodded slowly. 43 years teaches you when to push and when to let silence do the work. I let it sit there between us. She glanced at the window, then back at me. I'm so sorry. It's okay, I said. We'll get you a new one. It won't be the same. No, but it'll mean the same thing. She nodded and stood up fast, like she needed to be somewhere else. I'm going to take a shower. I watched her walk down the hallway. She was still wearing the same yoga pants and sweatshirt she'd left in that morning. No gym bag, no water bottle, and her hair wasn't pulled back the way it always was after a workout. I sat there alone in the kitchen, staring at the empty chair, and felt the first cold shadow of doubt settle into my chest. Something about her story didn't ring true. A woman who's really lost her wedding ring doesn't stop looking until the lights go out. Diane came back 20 minutes later in a bathrobe, hair damp, smelling like lavender soap. She poured herself a glass of wine and sat back down at the table. I was still there, hadn't moved. Tell me again, I said quietly. What happened? She took a sip and set the glass down carefully. I already told you. I know, but I want to understand. She sighed. The class was packed today, maybe 15 women. The instructor cranked the heat up to 85 degrees. You know how hot yoga is. I don't, actually. Well, it's hot. She gave a tight little smile. Anyway, I was in the back row. We were doing downward dog, then up into warrior 2, and my hands were just dripping. I remember thinking I should take the ring off, but I didn't want to leave it on the floor. I nodded. So, when did you notice it was gone? Not until I got to the car. She looked down into her wine. I always touch my ring when I drive. It's a habit. I reached for it and it wasn't there. And you went back in? Right away. I told the girl at the desk. She let me back into the studio. I checked my mat, the spot where I'd been standing, even the cubbies where we leave our shoes. Nothing. Her voice was steady now, rehearsed, like she'd been practicing the story in the shower. What about the other women? I asked. Did anyone help you look? Most of them were already gone. There were maybe 2 or 3 left. They looked around, but she trailed off and shrugged. It's just gone, Walt. I watched her fingers wrap around the stem of the wine glass. Her nails were painted a soft coral, freshly done, the kind of manicure you don't get on a Tuesday afternoon before yoga class. You didn't call me, I said. She blinked. What? When you realized it was missing. You didn't call me from the parking lot. I didn't want to worry you until I was sure. But you were sure? You just said you looked everywhere. Her jaw tightened. I don't know what you want me to say, Walt. I want you to tell me the truth. The room went quiet. The refrigerator hummed. Somewhere down the street, a dog barked twice and stopped. She stood up and took her wine glass to the sink. I told you the truth. I lost my ring. I'm upset. And instead of being supportive, you're interrogating me like I did something wrong. I didn't answer, just sat there and let her words hang in the air. She turned and looked at me. Her face was calm now, too calm. I'm going to bed. I nodded. All right. She walked out. A minute later, I heard the bedroom door close. I stayed at that table another hour, staring at the empty wine glass in the sink, trying to figure out why every instinct I had was screaming that my wife of 43 years had just lied straight to my face. I was still the man who believed fixing things was my job, until I realized some things are broken on purpose. I didn't sleep much that night. Diane was on her side of the bed, breathing slowly and even, while I lay there staring at the ceiling fan going around and around in the dark. By morning, I'd made up my mind. I was going to act like I believed her, because that's what 43 years of marriage teaches you. Sometimes you have to give a person room to come clean on their own. I got up at 6, made coffee, and started breakfast. Scrambled eggs, toast, a little ham. Diane came out around 7 in her bathrobe, looking surprised. You made breakfast. Figured we could both use it. I set a plate in front of her and sat down with my own. She picked up her fork, but didn't eat, just pushed the eggs around. I'm sorry about yesterday. Nothing to be sorry for. I know you think I'm being dramatic. I don't think that. I took a sip of coffee. I think you're upset, and I think we can fix it. She looked up. How? I'll take you to the jeweler this afternoon. We'll pick out a new ring. Something you like. Her face shifted, just for a second. Relief, maybe, or something else I couldn't name. Walt, you don't have to. I want to, I said. 43 years is worth more than a piece of gold. We'll get you a new one and it'll be fine. She set her fork down. What if I want to go back to the studio first? One more time, just to be sure. I watched her carefully. You want me to come with you? No, too fast. I mean, you'd be bored. It's just a yoga studio. I'll go this morning and look around one more time. If it's really gone, we'll go to the jeweler after lunch. I nodded slowly. All right. She stood up and kissed the top of my head. Thank you, Walt. Really? I listened to her get dressed in the bedroom. I heard the closet door open and close, heard her rummaging through drawers. When she came back out, she was in jeans and a blue sweater, her purse over her shoulder. I'll be back in an hour, she said. Take your time. She left. I heard the car start, then pull out of the driveway. I sat there alone in the kitchen, the eggs getting cold on my plate, and felt the weight of something I didn't want to name settling into my chest. She didn't want me to come with her, didn't want me anywhere near that studio, and I couldn't shake the feeling that she wasn't going there to look for a ring. She was going there to make sure a story stayed straight. I finished my coffee, washed the dishes, and told myself I was being paranoid. Told myself that doubt was just age talking, that I should trust the woman I'd spent half my life with. But trust is a funny thing. Once it cracks, you start hearing every creak in the house. I'd been married for 43 years and never once set foot in that studio. So how in God's name did her ring get into the men's locker room? Diane came back an hour later, shaking her head. It's not there, Walt. I looked everywhere again. It's just gone. All right, I said. Let's go pick out a new one. She nodded, relieved. We had lunch. She seemed lighter, almost cheerful, like a weight had been lifted. We were getting ready to leave for the jeweler when my phone rang. Unknown number. Local area code. Hello? Mr. Hensley? A woman's voice. Young. Friendly. Yes. This is Amber from Lotus Flow Yoga Studio. I'm the manager. I'm calling because we found your wife's wedding ring. My heart stopped. You found it? Diane's head snapped toward me. Her face went pale. Yes, sir. One of our evening instructors found it this morning. We're so glad we could track you down. Diane must be so relieved. I turned away from Diane and kept my voice steady. Where did you find it? That's the strange part. She laughed a little. It was under a bench in the men's locker room. We have no idea how it got in there. Maybe someone picked it up in the studio and dropped it. Anyway, you can come by any time to pick it up. I closed my eyes. The floor seemed to tilt under my feet. Mr. Hensley, are you still there? Yeah, I'm here. We're open until 8 tonight. Just ask for me at the front desk. I'll be there. I hung up. Diane was standing 3 feet away, staring at me. Her hands were clenched at her sides. They found it, I said quietly. Where? I looked straight at her. The men's locker room. The color drained from her face. That's impossible. That's what she said. Walt, how, Diane? My voice was still calm, still controlled, but something cold and sharp was rising in my chest. How does a ring you lost during yoga end up in the men's locker room? I don't know. Her voice cracked. Maybe someone found it and what? Walked into the men's locker room and dropped it under a bench. She opened her mouth. I closed it. I opened it again. I don't know, Walt. I stared at her. This woman I'd spent 43 years with. This woman I'd built a life with. And at that moment, I didn't recognize her. I'm going to pick it up, I said. I'll come with you. No. I grabbed my keys off the counter. You stay here. I walked out the door, got in my truck, and sat there for a full minute with my hands on the wheel. The men's locker room. I started the engine and backed out of the driveway, my mind racing through every possible explanation and landing on only one. My wife had been in that locker room, and she hadn't been there alone. I've driven that stretch of Kearney Street 10,000 times, but never once with the feeling that my life was about to end at the next stoplight. I was still wearing my canvas apron from the hardware store, hadn't even thought to take it off. My hands were tight on the wheel, knuckles white, and I could feel my pulse in my temples. The men's locker room. I kept hearing the manager's voice, cheerful, oblivious. It was under a bench in the men's locker room, 20 minutes across town. Might as well have been 20 years. The first light turned red just as I approached. I sat there watching the cross-traffic roll by, and my mind started doing what minds do when they're cornered. It started making excuses. Maybe someone found it in the studio. I picked it up. I walked into the wrong locker room by accident. But who walks into a men's locker room by accident? A janitor, maybe. Cleaning crew. But the manager said an instructor found it. This morning, I gripped the wheel tighter. The light turned green. I rolled forward. Another mile. Another light. Maybe Diane dropped it in the parking lot. Maybe some guy picked it up, carried it inside, set it down in the locker room while he changed. I said it out loud, heard how it sounded. That's insane, Walt. My voice echoed in the empty cab of the truck. I sounded old, desperate. Another red light, longer this time. I stared at the dashboard and tried to think of one single innocent explanation that made sense. There wasn't one. The men's locker room meant a man. It meant my wife had been close enough to a man to lose a ring she'd been wearing for 43 years. I thought about the way she'd panicked when I offered to drive her to the studio, the way she'd insisted on going alone this morning, the way her hands had been dry and cool when she said she'd been sweating. My chest felt tight, like someone had strapped a belt around my ribs and pulled. The light turned green. I drove past the bank where we'd opened our first joint account in 1983, past the diner where we used to take the boys for pancakes on Saturday mornings, past the church where we'd been married. Everything looked the same. Springfield in October, trees turning gold and red, people walking dogs, a woman pushing a stroller, but nothing was the same. I turned onto Maple and saw the studio up ahead, pale yellow building with big windows and a hand-painted sign, Lotus Flow Yoga Studio. I'd driven past it 100 times and never once thought about it. Now I hate the sight of it. I pulled into the parking lot and sat there with the engine running, staring at the front door. 43 years, 2 sons, 4 grandchildren, a house we'd paid off, a life we'd built together, brick by brick, year by year. And somewhere inside that building was the truth that was going to tear it all down. I turned off the engine, pocketed my keys, and walked toward the door. Son, I spent 22 years in the Army. I know when someone's trying to get me out the door before I see something. The front desk was empty when I walked in. Soft music played through hidden speakers, lavender and eucalyptus in the air. Everything designed to make you feel calm. I felt like I was about to crawl out of my skin. A young woman came around the corner carrying a yoga mat, early 30s, blonde ponytail, name tag that said, Amber, manager. She saw me, and her face shifted. Guilty, uncomfortable. Mr. Hensley? That's me. She set the mat down and pulled a small manila envelope from her pocket. Here's the ring. Again, we're so sorry about the confusion. She held it out like she was handing me a live grenade. I didn't take it. Where exactly did you find it? She swallowed. Like I said on the phone, it was in the men's locker room, under one of the benches. Show me. Her eyes widened. I'm sorry. Show me where you found it. Mr. Hensley, I really don't think... I'm not asking for a tour. My voice was steady, calm, the same voice I'd used 30 years ago when a supervisor tried to rush me through a safety inspection. I'm asking to see where my wife's wedding ring was found. That's reasonable. She shifted her weight, looked toward the hallway like she was hoping someone else would appear and handle this. No one came. It's just... The men's locker room is private, and is anyone in there now? No, but... Then there's no problem. She bit her lip. I could see her trying to figure out how to get me to leave without making a scene. I pulled my wallet from my back pocket and opened it. Showed her my retired military ID. Force of habit. Doesn't mean much anymore, but people still respond to it. Ma'am, I'm 72 years old. I spent 22 years in the Army and 37 at the power company. I'm not here to cause trouble, but that ring has been on my wife's finger since 1982, and I need to understand how it ended up in a men's locker room. Her face softened, just a little. I really wish I could tell you, she said quietly. We're all confused about it too. Then let's go look. Maybe we can figure it out together. She hesitated, glanced at the hallway again, then back at me. Okay, she said finally, but just for a minute. She led me down a narrow hallway past a yoga studio with mirrored walls and another smaller room with weights and resistance bands. At the end of the hall were 2 doors. One marked women, the other marked men. She stopped in front of the men's door and turned to face me. Mr. Hensley, before we go in, I just want you to know, we run a very respectful facility here. We have security cameras in the common areas, but not in the locker rooms, for privacy. I looked at her. Are there cameras in the hallway? Her face went pale. Yes, she whispered. I told him, young man, that ring has been on my wife's finger longer than you've been alive. I'm seeing those cameras. Amber stood there with her hand on the door handle, frozen, and I could see the exact moment she realized what I was asking. Mr. Hensley, the cameras. I kept my voice level. You have footage of this hallway. Yes, but then I need to see it. She pulled her hand back from the door like it had burned her. I don't think that's a good idea. Why not? Because, she looked down at the floor, because I don't think you're going to like what you see. The hallway seemed to tilt. I put one hand against the wall to steady myself. You've already watched it, I said. She didn't answer. I didn't need to. Show me. Mr. Hensley, please. Just take the ring. Go home. Talk to your wife. She, Amber, took a shaky breath and looked around like a trapped animal. Look, Mr. Hensley, this is a small, family-owned studio. We don't have corporate lawyers on speed dial. I just turned 30, and I'm terrified of getting sued or losing my job. Please don't make me the bad guy here. I'll talk to her after I see the footage. This isn't... She stopped, took a breath. Sir, I really think you should just go home. I raised my left hand, the same hand that had worn a gold band for 43 years. The ring was still there, still solid, still meaning what it had always meant. That ring in your pocket, I said quietly, has been on my wife's finger longer than you've been alive. I'm not leaving this building until I know exactly how it ended up in that locker room. Her eyes filled with tears. I'm so sorry. Don't be sorry. Just show me. She wiped her face with the back of her hand and nodded. Okay, follow me. We walked back down the hallway to a small office behind the front desk. One desk, one chair, one computer monitor. She logged in with shaking hands. What day? She asked. Yesterday, Tuesday. She pulled up the footage. Time stamps in the corner. Multiple camera angles. She clicked on Hallway B. Locker rooms. Black and white. Grainy but clear enough. What time did your wife say she was here? Around 3:30. She dragged the slider to 3 p.m. and hit play at double speed. Empty hallway. A man walks out of the men's locker room in gym shorts. A woman walks into the women's. Nothing unusual. 3:15. A class lets out. 6 or 7 women walk past the camera heading toward the exit. 3:30. Empty again. Then 3:42 p.m. 2 people walk into frame. Amber's hand hovered over the mouse. "Mr. Hensley, you don't have to play it," she clicked. Normal speed. The woman on the left was Diane. I'd know her to walk anywhere. Yoga pants, blue hoodie, hair pulled back. The man on the right was younger, maybe 40, ponytail, instructor's uniform, black fitted shirt with the studio logo. They were laughing. He said something. She swatted his arm. He grabbed her hand, and then they walked through the door marked Men. I stared at the screen. The timestamp kept running. The door stayed closed. Amber reached for the mouse. "I can turn it off." "No." My voice didn't sound like my own. "Keep going." She pressed play. We sat there in silence, watching an empty hallway and a closed door, while my marriage ended 1 second at a time. There it was, 43 years of vows rolling across a dirty tile floor like it was nothing. The timestamp hit 4:09 p.m. The door opened. The instructor came out first. His shirt was untucked. He ran a hand through his ponytail and glanced back down the hallway like he was checking for witnesses. Then Diane stepped out. Her hoodie was zipped and crooked. Her face was flushed. She was smiling. He leaned in and said something close to her ear. She laughed and touched his chest. Then they walked out of frame together, her hand brushing his as they disappeared toward the exit. 27 minutes. They'd been in that locker room for 27 minutes. "Mr. Hensley," I held up one hand. "Rewind it. Please, you don't need to. Rewind it." Amber dragged the slider back to 3:42. I leaned closer to the screen. "Slow it down. Half speed." She clicked a button. The footage lurched forward in slow motion. Diane and the instructor walked toward the door, laughing, his hand on the small of her back. The door opened. Both of them stepped through. "Stop," I said. "Right there." Amber froze the frame. Diane's left hand was reaching for the door frame to steady herself. The ring was on her finger. I could see it. A small flash of gold. "Now go when they come out." Amber's hands were shaking so badly she could barely work the mouse. She dragged the slider forward to 4:09 and hit play. Half speed again. Door opening. Instructor stepping out. Diane following. "Stop. Zoom in on her hand." Amber zoomed. Diane's left hand filled the screen. Blurry but clear enough. Bare. No ring. I sat back in the chair and stared at the ceiling. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. Somewhere in the building, a door closed. A woman laughed. "Do you have footage inside the locker room?" I asked. "No, sir. Privacy laws." I nodded. It didn't matter. I knew what happened there. I knew why her ring came off. I knew exactly what my wife had been doing while I was at the hardware store buying deck screws. Amber was crying now. Soft, quiet tears running down her face. "Mr. Hensley, I'm so sorry. If there's anything I can do..." "Is he still working here?" She froze. "Who?" "The instructor. The man in that video." "Yes. He teaches evening classes. He'll be here at 6. I looked at my watch. 4:47 p.m. "What's his name?" "I can't." "What's his name?" She closed her eyes. "Trevor. Trevor Marks." I stood up. My legs felt weak, but I stayed steady. 43 years of marriage teaches you how to stand when everything inside you is collapsing. "Thank you for your honesty," I said. "What are you going to do?" I picked up the manila envelope with Diane's ring inside and put it in my shirt pocket. "I'm going home," I said, "and then I'm going to have a conversation with my wife." I walked out of that office, through the lobby, and into the parking lot, where the sun was starting to set over Springfield. And, for the first time in my life, I had no idea what home was going to look like when I got there. I held her hand the day we buried her daddy and the day each of our babies was born. That ring was in every picture. I didn't drive straight home. Couldn't. I pulled into the parking lot of the old fairgrounds off Highway 65 and just sat there with the engine off, staring at nothing. This is where we met. Summer of 1979. I was 26. She was 23. County fair. I was with my buddy Ray, and she was working the lemonade stand in a yellow sundress with her hair pinned back. I asked for a large. She gave me a medium and said, "You don't look that thirsty." I married her 8 months later. I shipped out to Fort Hood for training 6 weeks after the wedding. She wrote me every single week, 42 letters. I still have them in a box in the garage, her handwriting looping across blue-lined paper. Miss you, love you, come home safe. I came home. We bought the little brick house on Elm Street for $38,000. 3 bedrooms, 1 bath. We painted every room ourselves. She got pregnant with our first son, Michael, in the spring of '83. I remember holding him in the hospital, feeling his whole weight in my 2 hands, thinking, this is it. This is what a man's life is supposed to be. Our second boy, Aaron, came 2 years later. She wanted a girl, didn't get one, but she loved those boys like they were the whole world. I worked double shifts at the power company so she could stay home with them, coached Little League on Saturdays. I fixed the roof myself when it leaked, put in a new furnace the winter of '92, paid off the mortgage in 2004, threw a party in the backyard with a cake that said free and clear. That ring was in every picture, her hand on my shoulder at Michael's high school graduation, her hand waving from the front porch when Aaron left for college, her hand holding mine at her father's funeral, squeezing tight when they lowered the casket. 43 years. I thought we'd done it right, thought we'd beaten the odds, thought loyalty and hard work and showing up every single day was enough. I looked down at my own left hand. The gold band was dull now, scratched from years of work, but it was still there, still meaning what it always meant. I pulled the manila envelope from my pocket and opened it. Diane's ring slid into my palm, smaller than mine, delicate. The inscription inside was almost worn smooth. D+W 6/12/82, June 12th, our wedding day. I closed my fist around it and felt the edges press into my skin. 43 years, 3 sons, 4 grandchildren, a house we'd built together, a life that felt solid as bedrock, and she'd thrown it all away for 27 minutes in a locker room with a man young enough to be her son. I sat there in the empty fairgrounds parking lot as the sun dropped lower and the shadows stretched long across the cracked asphalt. Then I started the truck and drove home. I never looked at another woman, not once. Thought that kind of man still mattered. I took the long way home, down Campbell Avenue, past the elementary school where I used to pick up the boys, past the Little League fields where I coached for 11 years, past the diner where Diane and I used to go every Friday night. I thought about all the things I'd done right. Never missed a mortgage payment, never missed an anniversary, never came home drunk or angry or empty-handed. I worked 40-hour weeks that turned into 50 when the bills piled up. Worked overtime every Christmas so the boys could have new bikes and video games and whatever else they wanted. I fixed the dishwasher when it broke, regrouted the bathroom tile, painted the fence every 3 years, changed the oil in her car, shoveled the driveway before she woke up on snow days. I thought that's what my husband did. I thought loyalty was a 2-way street. There were women at work over the years. I'm not blind. There was a secretary named Linda in the early '90s who used to smile at me a certain way. A supervisor named Karen who invited me to lunch a few too many times. I never went, never even thought about it, because I'd made a promise. And where I come from, a promise isn't something you break just because you're bored or flattered or tired. I wore that ring every single day for 43 years. Didn't take it off to shower, didn't take it off to work. I didn't take it off when I was alone. It was part of me, like my name, like my word. I thought Diane felt the same way. I saved for retirement, put money aside every month so we could travel when I turned 70. Thought maybe we'd see the Grand Canyon, take a cruise, spend time with the grandkids. I thought we were solid, though the hard years were behind us, though we'd earned the quiet part of life. The part where you sit on the porch together and watch the sun go down and don't have to say much because you've already said it all. I thought I'd done everything right, and maybe that was the problem. Maybe I was so busy being the man I thought I was supposed to be that I didn't notice she'd stopped caring. Or maybe it didn't matter what I did. Maybe some people just get bored, get restless, start looking around for something new and shiny to make them feel young again. I pulled up to a red light and sat there watching a young couple cross the street holding hands. Couldn't have been more than 30, laughing about something. I wondered if they'd make it. I wondered if they even understood what 43 years meant. I wondered if loyalty was just an old-fashioned idea that died with my generation. The light turned green. I drove through the intersection and felt the weight of Diane's ring in my pocket like a stone. I'd been a good husband, a good father, a good man, and none of it had been enough. I told myself a woman has a right to feel pretty at any age. Turns out she just wanted to feel pretty for somebody else. The signs had been there. I just didn't want to see them. It started about 6 months ago, maybe longer. Diane announced she was joining a yoga studio, said she needed to stay active, keep her joints loose. All the women her age were doing it. I thought it was a good idea, told her so. Then it became hot yoga, 3 times a week, then 4, then 5. She started coming home later, said she stayed to talk with the other women, said they'd become friends. I believed her. She bought new workout clothes, expensive ones, Lululemon, Athleta, brands I'd never heard of. She said the cheap stuff didn't breathe right. I didn't question it. She started showering at the studio instead of at home, said it was easier, saved time. I thought that made sense. Her phone was always face down on the counter, always on silent. If it buzzed while we were watching TV, she'd glance at it and say it was nothing. A spam call, an email. I never asked to see it. She bought new perfume, something floral and young, not the kind of thing a 68-year-old woman usually wears. I asked her about it once and she said she was tired of smelling like an old lady. I told her she didn't smell like an old lady. She just smiled and changed the subject. Last month she came home with lingerie, lace, black. She said it was for herself, said a woman should feel attractive at any age. I told her she was beautiful, meant it. She wore it once, went to bed early, said she had a headache. 2 weeks ago, she asked if I'd ever thought about separate bedrooms, said I snored, said she wasn't sleeping well. I bought nose strips. I started sleeping on my side. She moved into the guest room anyway. I told myself it was normal. Told myself couples our age need space. I need independence. Told myself I was being old-fashioned and controlling to even question it. I told myself marriage changes after 40 years. It gets quieter, less physical, more companionship than passion. I told myself a lot of things, because the alternative was too terrible to imagine. The alternative was that the woman I'd spent my entire adult life with, the woman I'd built a home with, raised children with, buried parents with, had stopped seeing me as a man and started seeing me as furniture, something comfortable, familiar, easy to ignore. I pulled into our driveway and sat there looking at the house, the flower beds I'd mulched last weekend, the porch I'd repainted in the spring, the mailbox I'd replaced after a kid hit it with a baseball bat. Everything looked the same, but nothing was. I gripped the steering wheel and felt 43 years of trust crack down the middle like ice on a frozen lake. All the signs had been there. I just loved her too much to see them. That laugh used to be the sound of home. Now it was the sound of everything I built burning down. I couldn't get the image out of my head. Not the part where they walked into the locker room. Not the part where they came out 27 minutes later with crooked clothes and flushed faces. The part that broke me was before, when they were walking down that hallway. When he said something, she threw her head back and laughed. That laugh. I knew that laugh. It was the same one she used to make on Sunday mornings when I'd burn the bacon and blame it on the stove. The same one she made when the boys were little and did something ridiculous. The same one she made the day I proposed, when I got down on one knee in the rain and the ring box wouldn't open. That was my laugh, the one she saved for me, for our life together, for the small, stupid, beautiful moments that make a marriage real. And she'd given it to him, some ponytailed yoga instructor half her age, who probably didn't even know her middle name, or how she took her coffee, or what she looked like the day we buried her mother. I sat in the driveway with the engine off and replayed it in my mind, over and over, her hand on his chest, his hand on her back. Both of them smiled like they had a secret. 27 minutes. I wondered what they talked about after. Did they make plans to do it again? Did he tell her she was beautiful? Did she tell him things about me, about us, that were supposed to stay private? Did she compare us? I looked down at my hands on the steering wheel, 72 years old, scarred knuckles, thick veins, calloused palms from a lifetime of work. I wondered if she looked at his hands, smooth and young and strong, and felt something she hadn't felt with me in years, or maybe she never thought about me at all. Maybe when she was with him, I didn't exist. The porch light came on. Motion. Sensor. I'd installed it myself 3 years ago after Diane said she felt nervous coming home in the dark. I'd done that, fixed it, made her feel safe, and she'd repaid me by letting another man put his hands on her in a locker room while her wedding ring slipped off her finger and rolled across the floor like trash. I pulled the ring from my pocket and held it up to the light. It caught the glow from the porch and flashed gold. 43 years, reduced to a piece of metal in a manila envelope. I put it back in my pocket and opened the truck door. The house was quiet when I stepped inside. The TV was on in the living room. I could hear the low murmur of voices. Some game show. Diane was on the couch in her bathrobe, a glass of wine in her hand, scrolling through her phone. She looked up when I walked in and smiled, like nothing had happened, like she hadn't just destroyed everything we'd ever built. I didn't speed, didn't swerve. I drove like a man carrying nitroglycerin, because I was. Before I left the studio, I asked Amber one more question. Can you make me a copy of that footage? She looked at me like I'd asked her to set the building on fire. Mr. Hensley, I don't think... 2 copies, I said, on USB drives. One for me, one for my lawyer. Her mouth opened, closed. She looked around the empty office like someone might appear and tell her what to do. Please, I added. My voice was steady, quiet. I'm not going to post it online. I'm not going to hurt anyone. I just need proof of what I saw. She studied my face for a long moment. Then she nodded and opened a drawer, pulled out 2 blank USB drives. This'll take a few minutes, she said. I waited, watched the progress bar crawl across the screen, watched her hands shake as she ejected the first drive and inserted the second. When both were done, she handed them to me in a small plastic bag. Mr. Hensley, she said quietly, I'm really sorry this happened. Not your fault. If you need anything, a statement, a witness, I'll let you know. I walked out of that studio with 2 USB drives in my pocket and a clarity I hadn't felt in 43 years. No more questions, no more doubts, no more excuses, just cold, clean evidence. I got in my truck and sat there for a minute, feeling the weight of those drives like they were made of lead instead of plastic. Then I started the engine and drove home. No radio, no music, just the hum of the tires on asphalt and the sound of my own breathing. I didn't cry, didn't curse, didn't punch the steering wheel or scream at God. I just drove, because crying doesn't fix betrayal. Screaming doesn't undo 43 years of lies, and rage without a plan is just noise. I'd spent my whole life being the kind of man who fixed things, who showed up, who did what needed doing without making a scene, and this needed doing. I stopped at a red light and looked at myself in the rearview mirror. Same face I had yesterday, same gray hair, same lines around the eyes, but something was different. Yesterday, I'd been a man who trusted his wife, who believed in his marriage, who thought loyalty still mattered. Today, I was a man who knew the truth, and the truth had teeth. The light turned green. I drove through the intersection and felt something settle in my chest. Not peace, not forgiveness, purpose. I passed the grocery store and made a U-turn, pulled into the parking lot, grabbed a cart. If I was going to do this, I was going to do it right. Steaks, 2 thick ribeyes from the butcher counter, baking potatoes, sour cream, the good wine, the Cabernet she liked from California. The kid at the register gave me a strange look when I paid cash. Special occasion? He asked. I smiled. You could say that. I drove home with the groceries in the passenger seat and 2 USB drives burning a hole in my pocket. Tonight was going to be a night Diane remembered for the rest of her life. She said, "You're in a good mood." I smiled and said, "Best mood I've been in for years, honey." Diane was still on the couch when I walked in carrying grocery bags. She looked up, surprised. "What's all this?" "Dinner," I said. I kept my voice light. "Easy. Thought we could use a nice meal." She set her wine glass down and stood up. "Walt, you didn't have to?" "I wanted to." I walked past her into the kitchen and started unpacking. Steaks, potatoes, wine. "Go get cleaned up. Put on something nice. We're doing this right." She stood in the doorway, watching me with a confused smile on her face. "What's gotten into you?" "Nothing. Just felt like treating my wife." I saw the relief wash over her face, saw her shoulders relax. She thought she'd gotten away with it, though the phone call about the ring had been a close call. Nothing more. She thought I was still the same old Walt, predictable, trusting, easy to fool. "Okay," she said. "Give me 20 minutes. Take your time." She disappeared down the hallway. I heard the bedroom door close, heard the shower start. I stood at the kitchen counter, hands flat on the granite, and took a slow breath. Then I got to work. I seasoned the steaks the way she liked: salt, pepper, garlic powder, wrapped the potatoes in foil, preheated the oven, opened the wine to let it breathe. I moved through the kitchen like I'd done 1,000 times before, but tonight every motion felt deliberate, final. This was the last meal I'd ever cook for her. The shower stopped. I heard the blow dryer, the closet door opening and closing. I poured 2 glasses of wine and set the table. Cloth napkins, the good plates we only used for holidays. Candles. Diane came out 25 minutes later in a blue dress I'd bought her for our 40th anniversary. Hair done, makeup on. She looked good, looked like the woman I'd married. "Wow," she said, looking at the table. "You went all out." "Anniversary's coming up," I lied. "Thought we'd practice." She laughed, came over and kissed my cheek. "You're sweet." I smiled. "Steaks will be ready in 10. Why don't you sit down and relax?" She sat at the table and sipped her wine while I finished cooking. We made small talk. She told me about her day, left out the part about the yoga studio calling, of course. I told her about the hardware store. Normal, easy, like we'd done 10,000 times before. I plated the food and carried it to the table. Steak, potato, salad. Perfect. "This looks amazing," she said. "Glad you like it." We ate. She complimented the steak 3 times, finished her wine and poured another glass. I watched her across the table, the same table where we'd fed our babies, helped with homework, played cards on winter nights, and felt nothing. No love, no anger, just cold, quiet resolve. She smiled at me. "You're in a good mood." I smiled back. "Best mood I've been in for years, honey." Her face went the color of old oatmeal when my wedding present started playing on our living room TV. I cleared the plates while Diane finished her second glass of wine. She was relaxed now, happy, though the worst was behind her. "Leave the dishes," she said. "I'll do them later." "Already done." I rinsed the last plate and set it in the drying rack. "Why don't you go sit in the living room? I've got something for you." Her eyes lit up. "Walt, you didn't have to get me anything." "I wanted to." She walked into the living room and settled onto the couch. I grabbed the small blue jewelry box from my jacket pocket, the same box I'd used when I proposed in 1981, and followed her. I sat down in my chair across from her. The TV remote was on the armrest. I'd already queued everything up. "Close your eyes," I said. She smiled and closed them like a kid on Christmas morning. I slid the jewelry box across the coffee table toward her. "Okay, open." She opened her eyes and gasped when she saw the box. "Oh, Walt, you already replaced it?" "Open it." Her hands were shaking as she picked up the box. She lifted the lid slowly, smile wide on her face. Then the smile died. Inside the box was a USB drive. She stared at it, looked up at me. "I don't understand." "You will." I picked up the remote and hit play. The TV screen went black. Then the timestamp appeared in the corner. Tuesday, 3:42 p.m., hallway B, locker rooms. Diane's face went white. "Walt, watch." The footage started playing. Black and white, grainy, but clear. Her and Trevor walking down the hallway, laughing, his hand on her back. The door marked "Men opening." Both of them disappear inside. "Walt, turn it off." "No." She stood up. I stayed seated. The timestamp kept running. 3:45, 3:50, 4. "Where did you get this?" Her voice was shaking. "The yoga studio. The manager was very helpful. You had no right. Sit down." Something in my voice made her freeze. I'd never spoken to her that way before. Never needed to. She sat. The door on the screen opened. Trevor stepped out. Then Diane. Flushed, smiling, clothes disheveled. I paused the frame. 27 minutes, I said. My voice was calm, steady. "That's how long you were in there with him. It's not what it looks like. Don't." I held up one hand. "Don't insult me." Tears started running down her face. "Walt, please, let me explain." "There's nothing to explain." I set the remote down. "I saw everything. The manager saw everything. And now, you're going to tell me the truth. I made a mistake. A mistake is forgetting to buy milk. This is betrayal." She covered her face with her hands and sobbed. Big, shaking sobs that might have moved me yesterday. Today, they sounded like nothing. I sat there in my chair, watching the woman I'd spent 43 years with fall apart, and felt absolutely nothing but the cold weight of justice settling into place. "How long?" I asked. She didn't answer. "How long, Diane?" 3 months, she whispered. I nodded slowly. "Get up." "What?" "Get up. Go pack a bag." Her head snapped up. "Walt, you've got 30 minutes. I didn't raise my voice once. Never felt stronger in my life. Diane stood frozen in the middle of the living room, mascara running down her face, looking at me like I'd grown a second head. "You can't be serious." 30 minutes, I repeated. "Pack what you need. After that, I'm changing the locks." "Walt, please." I looked at my watch. 29 minutes. "This is my house too." "Not anymore." My voice was calm, cold. "My name's on the deed. My money paid it off, and my ring never left my finger." She opened her mouth. Nothing came out. "You can take your clothes, your jewelry, whatever fits in a suitcase. Everything else stays. Where am I supposed to go?" "That's not my problem." I stood up and walked to the front door, opened it. "Maybe Trevor has a couch." Her face crumpled. "I'm sorry. God, Walt, I'm so sorry." 28 minutes. "Please don't do this." "I'm not doing anything." I leaned against the door frame and looked at her. Really looked at her. "You did this 3 months ago. Every time you walked into that locker room. Every time you lied to my face. It didn't mean anything. It meant everything." My voice didn't rise, didn't break. It meant 43 years of vows don't matter. It meant I don't matter. So now you don't get to stay. She took a step toward me. "Walt, I love you." "No, you don't. And maybe you never did." The words hit her like a fist. She staggered back, put a hand on the couch to steady herself. 27 minutes, I said quietly. She stared at me for another few seconds. Then something in her face changed. The tears stopped. Her jaw set. She walked past me toward the bedroom without another word. I heard drawers opening, hangers scraping, the sound of a suitcase zipper. I stayed by the door, didn't move, didn't sit down, just wait. 15 minutes later, she came back with one suitcase and a shoulder bag. Her face was hard now, angry. "This is cruel," she said. "No, cruel is what you did to me for 3 months while I was buying you flowers and cooking you dinner and believing every word you said. I have rights. Then call a lawyer, but you're calling from somewhere else." She looked around the living room one last time, at the pictures on the wall, the furniture we'd picked out together, the life we'd built. Then she looked at me. "You'll regret this." "No," I said. "I won't. The only thing I regret is wasting 43 years believing you were the woman I married. That line alone will get clipped and shared 1,000,000 times." She walked past me through the open door, down the porch steps, got into her car without looking back. I watched her tail lights disappear down the street. Then I closed the door, locked it, and stood there in my empty house feeling lighter than I had in 43 years. I walked to the kitchen, poured myself a glass of the good wine, and raised it to the empty room. "To the truth," I said, and I drank alone. I didn't watch her drive away. I listened to the gravel crunch under her tires until even that sound was gone. She came back the next morning with her sister Carol. I was on the front porch drinking coffee when they pulled up in Carol's silver Honda. Carol didn't get out, just sat in the driver's seat with her sunglasses on, staring straight ahead, like she was afraid to look at me. Diane came up the walk, carrying 2 empty suitcases. Her eyes were red and swollen. She'd been crying all night, I could tell. "I need to get the rest of my things," she said. I nodded. "I'll wait out here." She walked past me into the house without another word. I sat in my chair and listened to her moving through the rooms, opening closets, pulling drawers, the soft thud of shoes being tossed into a suitcase. 43 years of a woman's life reduced to 2 Samsonite bags. She came out 20 minutes later, dragging both cases behind her, stopped at the top of the steps and looked at me. "Can we talk?" "No. Walt, there's nothing left to say, Diane." Her mouth trembled. "I never wanted to hurt you." "Then you shouldn't have done what you did." She set the suitcases down, took a step closer. "You were a good husband." "I know. I don't know what happened. I got confused. He made me feel, I don't care." I looked at her over the rim of my coffee cup. "I don't care how he made you feel. I don't care what you were thinking. It doesn't change anything." She wiped her eyes. "Are you going to tell people?" "I'm going to tell the truth if anyone asks." "Please don't show them the video. That's between you and your conscience." She picked up the suitcases again. Her hands were shaking. "I hope someday you can forgive me. I hope someday you can forgive yourself." She started down the steps, stopped halfway, turned back. "I loved you, Walt. I really did. Maybe, but not enough." She stood there for another few seconds, like she was waiting for me to say something else, to call her back, to give her one more chance. I didn't. She walked to the car and loaded the suitcases into the trunk. Carol finally looked at me then, just a quick glance, and I saw shame on her face. She knew, probably knew before I did. Diane got in the passenger seat. The door closed. The engine started. I sat on the porch and watched the Honda back out of the driveway. I watched it roll down Elm Street and turn left at the stop sign, and then it was gone. I sat there for another hour. Didn't cry. I didn't feel much of anything except the cool morning air and the warmth of the coffee in my hands. The house was quiet behind me. For the first time in 43 years, it was just mine, and that felt just fine. I told them, "Your mother is still your mother, but she's not my wife anymore." I called Michael first. He's the oldest, 41, lives in Kansas City with his wife and 2 daughters. "Dad, is everything okay?" I'd rehearsed what I was going to say. Keep it simple, direct. "Your mother and I are getting divorced." Silence on the other end. Then, "What?" "She made some choices I can't live with. She's moved out. I wanted you to hear it from me." "Dad, what happened?" "That's between me and her, but it's final." Is there someone else?" I closed my eyes. "Yes." More silence. I heard him take a breath, let it out slow. "Jesus, Dad, I'm sorry." "Don't be sorry. Just keep loving your mom. She's still your mother, still your kid's grandmother. This is between me and her. Are you okay?" "I'm fine, son. Do you need anything?" "No, I just wanted you to know." We talked for another 10 minutes. I kept my voice steady, calm. Didn't badmouth Diane. Didn't tell him about the video. Just told him the marriage was over and life was moving forward. When I hung up, I called Aaron. Same conversation, same shock, same questions. "Dad, if you need a place to stay, I'm staying right here. This is my house." "Okay, but if you need anything, I'll let you know." Then I called our youngest, David, 36, still single, lives in Denver. He took it the hardest. "I don't understand. You guys were solid." "I thought so too." "What did she do?" "David, I'm not going into details. Just know it wasn't my choice, and it's not reversible." "Does she want to come back?" "Doesn't matter if she does." He was quiet for a long time. Then, "I'm proud of you, Dad." That caught me off guard. "For what?" "For not letting her walk all over you. A lot of guys would have just, I don't know, taken it. I'm too old to be disrespected in my own house." "Damn right." I smiled. It was the first time I'd smiled in 2 days. Over the next week, all 3 boys called again, checked in. I made sure I was eating. Michael drove down on Saturday and took me to lunch. We didn't talk about Diane, just talked about his girls and work and the Chiefs season. It felt normal, good. None of them asked to see the video. I wouldn't have shown them anyway. That's not something a son needs to see, not something anyone needs to see. They respected that, and they respected me for handling it the way I did. No drama, no public scene, just quiet, firm consequences. That's how a man handles betrayal. Not with rage. Not with revenge that drags everyone else down into the mud. With dignity. I raised those boys to be good men, to treat women with respect, to keep their word. And when their mother broke hers, I showed them what a man does. When the world falls apart, you stand up, you handle it, and you keep moving forward. Because that's what men do. The coffee's hot, the birds are loud, and for the first time in 50 years, I'm answering to nobody but me and the good Lord. Some men would call that lonely. I call it peace. It's been 6 months since Diane left. The divorce was finalized last month. Clean. Simple. She didn't fight me on the house or the pension. Maybe her lawyer told her she didn't have a leg to stand on. Maybe she felt guilty. Doesn't matter now. I'm sitting on the front porch like I do every morning. Coffee in my hand. Sunrise coming up orange and gold over the rooftops across the street. Birds making a racket in the oak tree I planted 30 years ago. The house is quiet behind me. No TV, no footsteps. No one asked me what I wanted for dinner. Some men would hate that. I don't. I wake up when I want, eat what I want, spend my days at the hardware store, the library, or out in the shop building whatever comes to mind. Last month I built a toy chest for Michael's youngest. The week before that, I refinished the dining table. I kept myself busy. Friends have been good. My buddy Ray calls every few days. Take me to breakfast. Tell me I look better than I have in years. Maybe I do. The grandkids still come by. Michael brings his girls every other weekend. They climb all over me like I'm a jungle gym. We make pancakes and watch cartoons, and I don't have to ask anyone's permission. David flew in last month just to check on me. Took me to a Royals game. We ate hot dogs and talked about nothing important, and it was perfect. Aaron keeps asking if I'm dating. I tell him I'm 72 years old and perfectly content. He laughs and says, "Dad, you've got another 20 good years. Don't waste them." Maybe he's right. Maybe not. Right now, I'm just enjoying the quiet. I kept my vows. I kept my self-respect. Kept my home. Diane? I heard she's living with her sister. Heard the yoga instructor dumped her after a month. She's been calling the boys asking about me. I don't ask. Don't care. That part of my life is over. I pulled her wedding ring out of the drawer last week. I sat at the kitchen table and looked at it for a long time. Thought about melting it down, making fishing lures. Something useful. I haven't decided yet. For now, it's back in the drawer. It doesn't hurt to look at it anymore. It's just metal. The sun's all the way up now. The sky's turning that bright morning blue. I drain the last of my coffee and stand up. My knees pop. My back's a little stiff, but I'm standing on my own 2 feet, in my own house, on my own terms, and that's worth more than 43 years of lies. If you made it this far, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button and drop a comment telling me what you would have done in my situation. Would you have kicked her out, giving her a second chance? I want to hear from men who've been through it, because at the end of the day, we're all just trying to keep our dignity intact. And brothers, that's the one thing nobody can take from you unless you let them. The coffee's getting cold. Time to start the day. And for the first time in a long time, I'm looking forward to it.